Alright guys, figured I'd do a quick little review of the Grayman Satu. It's not mine, but it's my girlfriend's uncle's, and I know him well, obviously. He's he's used it and carried it. I don't think he's like batoned any 2x4s with it or anything like that, but he's used it for daily cutting tasks. You can hear how this thing locks up. It's pretty insane, actually, how loud it is when it locks up. Compared to like an SMF. It's a little bit louder than SMF when it locks up. Here's a quick size comparison. These up here are both SMFs. It's bigger. It's quite a bit bigger than SMF. Thickness of the lock bar. Let me see if I can show that. It's also appears to be a little bit thicker. Sorry about my finger. Yeah, it's thicker. The lock bar too. The blade's a little bit thicker. If this SMF is, 5 millimeters, I'd say this is probably, it's probably 5.5 millimeters, I would say. Yeah, probably right at 5.5. Frame lock side of all these knives. These are all different, but you get an idea. This one has been high polished. This is just a factory flamed, and then the Grayman's it's like a sandblast, kind of like a Sabenza or bead blast, whatever it is. The blade is also bead blasted. It's CPM S30V. The edge that comes on it is toothy, to say the least. It almost looks like a saw blade, I guess you'd say. It's a really, I wouldn't even call it a working edge. I would call it like a saw edge. It's like a really toothy edge. He fully polished this edge, and that's what he does with all his knives. But it's a lot better. It's a lot more refined edge than what came on it. And I'm sure the edge that came on it is fine for cutting. I'm sure it's not bad. It's just kind of looks unfinished, I guess you could say, to me. It looked extremely rough. He didn't like it either, obviously. The pivot on this knife, I have a lot of people PM me saying the pivot looks small. And I guess in relation to this SMF pivot, it may look small, but when you turn the knife over, it's really not that small of a pivot. It honestly is just a little bit smaller than that SMF's pivot, believe it or not. Just a hair. It's definitely got a decent sized pivot. It's not like a, Sabenza sized pivot on this knife, so there's really no need to worry there. It's got a monster of a stop pin. That's huge. That's humongous. The detent, you can see it's great. It's probably better than the SMF, actually. It's good. And the SMF's detent's good too, but this one's good. That's hard to do with a knife of this mass, I guess. What else? Standoffs. Actually, no, not standoffs. What is that? G10 back spacer. I guess these are press fit, maybe. Male side. Lanyard hole is humongous if you like lanyards. The pocket clip is really good on this knife. It's not too tight. It's not too loose. It does kind of do the same thing as Strider does. Just from the very few times I've handled it, kind of this area where the lock bar is cut out, will kind of snag on your pants a little bit like a Strider. But it's not bad. Lockup is solid. I mean, it's a really solid knife. And it's extremely smooth. Like, you can flick it out with your finger, your index finger. You can thumb flick it. There's not a choil per se on this, but since the handle is so big, I mean, you can just use the top part of the handle to choke up on and bring your thumb up there. I mean, I have big hands, but I can choke all the way up on it. And that's huge. It may look small in my hands because my hands are so big, but it's not a small knife at all. Obviously, you see the size comparison. What else? Dual thumb studs, that's standard. The lockup, the tang. It's not cut quite as extreme as a Strider, but it's not like a Sabenza in the sense that it's flat. It locks up, I would say kind of like a, more of the blade contacts the lock bar than on a, I don't know how well I can show this guy. This is an iPhone. More of the blade contacts than a Strider, but not as much as like a Sabenza. I'm trying to get light the best I can. Anyways, you'll just have to take my word for that, but it's solid. This is a really small company. I don't even know if they have dealers or if they're willing to have, authorized dealers. I think they're just selling themselves. From what I've heard, their shop, a buddy of mine, told me their shop where they make these is their house. So it's literally a mom and pop operation. I mean, they make these out of their house, I guess their garage. That gives you an idea of how they're made. What else? Black G10. Sorry, guys. Black G10. Obviously, it has a liner. I'm assuming that liner's titanium. It looks like it to me. So, titanium liner, G10 scale. It's not too aggressive. I'd say the G10's probably like, yeah, it's just like a Strider. It's not like cold steel, crazy, ripping your pockets apart. It's pretty good. A little bit more aggressive than a Spyder Co, but not like a cold steel. Jimping, which you all know I could care less about, but there's plenty of it up here. It works. Again, it reminds me of a Strider. It's good. I mean, it's wide cut, but it's good. It's not, you can get a good purchase on it. You don't really need it though with this huge choil that's cut into the handle. Your fingers really aren't going anywhere. They're not slipping up over that hilt. I mean, it's just not happening. But honestly, I think for the money, actually I know, I'll go ahead and say I know, for the money I don't think you can get a more heavy duty folder. Of course, you could argue you could get a cheap cold steel or something to that effect, and yeah, sure you could, but I'm saying like a nice frame lock knife, titanium frame lock, I don't think it can be beat for the money. It is heavy. Compared to SMF being 6 ounces, this knife is, I think, a hair over 10 ounces or right at 10 ounces. It's not too bad for me, really. When I put it in my pocket, it doesn't seem too bad, but you got to keep in mind I'm a pretty big guy. But the guy that owns it, he's not what I would consider a big guy. I mean, he's not a small guy, but he carries it around just fine. You don't have to be a huge guy like me for it to be comfortable. I mean, he carries it all the time, and he didn't have a problem with it. So, if there's anything else I missed. Of course, you see the recurve. Nice recurve. I like that. Hey, Pete, what are these heat treated to? Yeah, I don't know what the heat treat is. Or the Rockwell. I would imagine it's probably like.
I think that guy mentioned it on his video.
Yeah.
He tested it.
I would imagine it's probably around, just your regular 59, 60, maybe 58. I don't know. But it's good. I mean, he hadn't had any problems with it chipping out or rolling or anything like that. You can see that. He hadn't had any problems with it. Nice swedge on the top. I think it's... Is this flat ground?
I think so.
Yeah, it feels flat ground. Yeah, flat ground. 3/4 flat ground. Or I guess maybe you could say half flat ground. But it's good. I mean, he hadn't had any issues with the steel. He really likes it. I mean, I'd recommend it. Again, these are both SMFs. You can see the size difference. It's not that much bigger. Well, it's a good solid 1/2 an inch bigger in overall length. 1/2 an inch. Yeah, about 1/2 an inch. I'd say. I mean, I don't have a measuring tape here, but that's what it looks like to me. It's massive. So if you want something massive folder, this is the one. All right, if you guys have any questions, just leave me a comment or something. Later.